Waves crashed beneath the bow of the small ship, sending freezing sprays across the deck. While normal people may have been bothered by this, the woman seated directly in the line of the spray completely ignored it, as it turned to vapor a foot away from her skin. Normally, she would have moved below decks, if only to protect her book, but given their current circumstances, she had to stay where she could keep her eyes on the horizon. A man approached her, wringing his hands nervously, clearly intimidated and not wanting to disturb her. It must have been urgent, as he didn't leave, even after she'd ignored him for a solid minute. "I don't see any enemy ships on the horizon, Captain," Jade said, not looking up from her book. "This better be good." This was the longest stretch of time she'd had to read in a long while, and despite the seriousness of this journey, she'd found herself relaxing as the days passed. "We've seen land on the horizon, ma'am," said the captain, a broad-shouldered Celian. "And?" "Making landfall will be impossible at our current course," the man replied. "We can try to take a detour, but given the current weather conditions, I can't give an estimate of when we might be able to land." Jade tisked and snapped her book closed, rising gracefully to her feet as she fixed her eyes on the horizon. Sure enough, she could see the faint outline of land, her sharp eyes also catching the low smudge on the horizon that signaled a storm. Normally, she wouldn't care what happened to this captain and his ship, but they were both on loan from a friend, and she didn't want to owe them any more than she already did. "Very well," she said, turning to the captain. "I guess this is my stop." "Ma'am?" the captain asked, clearly confused. He let out a yelp, staggering back as a pair of purple-feathered wings exploded from Jade's shoulders, extending to cover a good portion of the upper deck. Flexing her muscles, Jade got a feel for her wings in this strange land without the presence of thievery or any form of underworld. She knew her wings would work, though many of her other abilities would be severely limited. Teleportation was out of the question, meaning she was going to have to reach Keith the old-fashioned way. "Thank you for getting me here, Captain," she said, nodding to the man. "I won't be requiring your services for my return trip. Feel free to turn back now. That storm's looking pretty nasty, and I'd hate for you to die." The captain swallowed nervously as Jade's wings whooshed upward before she drove them down in an explosion of wind that knocked him off his feet. Jade soared into the air, climbing far slower than she liked but still managing a good pace. She climbed to a height of over 50 feet before angling toward land, leaving the small ship bobbing on the waves. Although she'd heard plenty about the frigid sea's weather patterns, she hadn't quite been prepared for how cold it was. Despite having spent many years governing the far north of Humania under the Glutton, cold like this had been a rarity, and with that storm moving in, she knew it would only grow colder still. Flapping powerfully, Jade struck out for land, looking back over her shoulder and grimacing as she spotted another shape not too far off. She should have had a significant head start, but the second ship had made shocking progress. Jade had still beaten them, though, and if she kept moving when she made landfall, she should be able to outstrip them. Though Ling's hunting party was comprised of strong members, none were avatars, which meant they'd have to travel the old-fashioned way. In all likelihood, they'd brought some carriages to help cover the vast terrain of the frigid seas. A freezing gust of wind slammed into Jade, trying to throw her back toward the ocean. She tucked her wings and fell into a steep dive, only allowing them to snap wide when her booted feet were an inch from the ground. The snow crunched underfoot as she landed, the wind tossing fine powder into the air and shrouding the landscape before her. Jade pulled the ruff of her fur coat a bit tighter, double-checking the clasp to make sure it was secure. Once that was done, she closed her eyes, concentrating on an item clutched in her gloved hand. It was the second half of the communicator Keith had given her. It cost her a pretty coin to get it enchanted the way she had, but it would now act as a homing device to its twin. The further apart they were, the weaker the impulse, which was why she needed to concentrate so hard. After another minute, Jade got a weak return signal. "North," she muttered, tucking the item back into her inventory before spreading her wings again.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.